Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories. And if you do love a relationship story or a Reddit story in general, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Really helps out the channel and I can never thank you enough. And with that being said, let's crack on with today's story. Now today's story does come with an update. It's from Blown Marriage 1 and it was from the subreddit True Off My Chest, who says, I ruin my mum's life and reputation. My 40 female parents, dad 63 male and mum 60 female, have been married for 43 years. I have 6 siblings, 42 female, 38 female, 34 female, 20 male, 20 male and 18 male. I've been with my husband 39 male since we were 15. I got pregnant at 17 and moved in with my parents. I gave birth to my now 22-year-old daughter. We got married at 18 shortly after. My dad's father passed shortly after our wedding and left his ranch-style house to my father. My grandparents built a house next door to my parents when they retired. My parents decided to let us live in this house and told us this would be my inheritance. My husband and I had no issues with this. We went on to have a 20 male, 14 female and 5 female, and I'm currently 7 months pregnant with my last child, a boy, due in April. I thought I had a good marriage. We were intimate more than twice a week. We went on date nights, we bought each other gifts, we didn't fight. My entire world shattered on New Year's Eve when I returned early from a girl trip I had taken with some friends. I walked into my bedroom to find my mum having sex with my husband. My mother screamed at me to get out of their bedroom, which really shook me up even more. Unfortunately, my oldest daughter was also home in her bedroom across the house getting ready for a party. She ran out and witnessed my all but a bedsheet naked mother ran out of our house next door to her house and slammed the door. My daughter was devastated and went to my sister's house. I asked her not to say anything until I first talked to my husband. I asked him for the truth. He told me that my mum seduced him when we were 18 and living in their house. They'd been having unprotected sex at least once a month for longer than we were married. I ran the math and was horrified because the timeline meant my twin brothers and youngest brother could be my husband's. I immediately called my dad and told him to come to my house without my mum. I made my husband confess and my dad was devastated. He and my mum were high school sweethearts. Needless to say, we could hear my mother screaming from our house when he confronted her. I then told my older sister, and she and I decided to have her throw a party for the whole extended family, and we invited my ex's family as well. At the party, I had my 22 female daughter take all the kids to our basement and put on a movie, leaving only the adult children and siblings, and I told them exactly what they'd be doing. Most of the family is on my side except my 3 youngest siblings, 38 female sister, ex's entire family. They all say I'm an arsehole for dropping this publicly. Word got out and my mum's best friend, who is on leadership at my mum's church, my childhood church, called me to verify. My mum has since been let go as the children's pastor there, and she claims I've essentially ruined her reputation and life. My dad kicked her out and now she's living with my 38 female sister. And lastly, my dad insisted on a DNA test for the 3 youngest boys before he'd consider anything to do with their marriage. The twins are my husband's bio children. I've since kicked him out and he's living with his parents. My father and I are discussing me moving into his much larger house and him selling my grandfather's house and him giving me the money to buy a new house somewhere else to get rid of the memories. My husband is appalled and furious that I proved he actually is about to have 7 kids instead of 5, that I'm going to be taking half his business away from him. My husband started his own HVAC company a few years back, and for the first 5 years I helped him get it set up, ran the office completely and took time away from my teaching career to help him get this established. In my state, all marital assets including businesses are split 50-50. Since the house was still in my father's name, my husband will get no money from the sale, neither will my mother, since inherited assets are not subject to be split in divorces. My mother is also likely to not get any alimony, as our state is not a no-fault divorce state. I'm now over a month removed, still extremely bitter and angry at my mother, especially at her hypocrisy of calling me a whore and shaming my family, when she's done much worse. I also despise my ex with everything within me now, as he was fucking both my mum and me in some instances, coming to our bed minutes later. He got my mother pregnant less than a week after getting me pregnant, and while I thought it was so cute and fun that I shared a pregnancy experience with my mum, she was carrying my children's half-siblings. He has broken all trust I had in men and being faithful. I had already procured a good lawyer from the firm that helped us in financial matters for both me and my dad is helping pay for it. My twin brothers, one of my sisters, and my entire ex's family have gone no contact with me, and my minor children and my children have essentially lost all their grandparents but my dad, 2 uncles, and an aunt on my side, and my husband's 3 brothers due to this mess. I've also developed ulcers and digestive issues because of this, so I'm visiting the doctor soon, and I've been in therapy since the first week of January. I've offered this for my 2 adult children if they need family therapy with all of us, but they're doing individual therapy right now. My 14-year-old knows that we're getting divorced and why, and she's so angry at her dad that I struggle sending her to his house on the weekends. I feel like she's old enough to make a decision on that, but I don't want to damage her relationship with her dad. I've told all my kids it's okay to love their dad, even if he hurt me, but the oldest 2 have cut him off 100%. I won't tell my youngest 2 until they're teens why we got divorced, and everyone else has agreed to not spill anything until they're old enough to understand. As for how I had no idea this affair was ongoing, my husband confirmed to me that they would have sex at my mum's office at church, in their cars, at a motel, and when we built the business they started having it routinely in his office, once I went back to teaching. They also had it in our houses too, when my father would go away on business trips or I'd be out of town. It was pure happenstance that I came home a day early from a trip, because I was uncomfortable from being nearly 7 months pregnant and just wanted my own bed for me to find out, knowing they'd be carrying on this full-blown affair. Still, if I hadn't caught them is what I'm still upset about. The fact that the grandmother and father of my children cared so little about destroying our families is what I can't get past. What's hardest for me is that my own mother would do this to me, and would continue to do this for years, and not caring when it all blew up in her face that she would be destroying her entire family. Edit. Also, to add insult to injury, my husband confirmed in one of our mediated conversations the affair started when I apparently made him angry. He didn't tell me and instead vented to my mum when they were alone. She comforted him and they had sex. He loved it and then pursued her after that. He said he would have divorced me but knew he'd get cut off from her, and she was so much better at sex than me, so stuck it out with me. He told me I was a placeholder. Of all the betrayal and low blows, that statement is what keeps me up at night. I think we can all safely say in this, from the very title, that you ruined your mum's life and reputation. It wasn't that way at all. It was completely the other way around. Your mum ruined her own life and her reputation. And I'm struggling to think why anyone's getting on your back about this at all, because you've done absolutely nothing wrong. Yes, you held this air quotes party to get this news out, but it had to get out at some point anyway. And I think it's best in a situation where you can explain everything to everyone at the same time, rather than little rumors flying around everywhere. And again, this is nothing of your creating. However, I'm incredibly glad to hear, yourself and some of your family are seeking therapy to get through this. I couldn't imagine dealing personally with a situation like this. But as I said, we do have an update to this and a frequently asked questions as well, which OP's going to clear up. So let's move to that right now. So the first little update says, I tried hard to go the route of a mediated divorce, but my ex told me yesterday, through his lawyers, that he doesn't believe that the baby I'm carrying is his, and he wants a DNA test as soon as he's born because he doesn't want to support a child that isn't his. He also believes I routinely cheated on him through our marriage and that I knew about his ongoing affair and used that as my excuse to have my own affairs. None of that is true, but I kind of wish it was because it would make the divorce easier. My lawyer basically told me to get ready for a long, drawn-out, brutal contested divorce, and that my ex is likely going to try every underhanded tactic in the book to make my life even more miserable. So now we're going to move on to the second update with some frequently asked questions. This has gone viral on Twitter, and thanks to the people who let me know in DMs, so I will answer some questions posed both here and there. Number 1, my twin brothers look like my egg donor side of the family. They look very close to my uncle and grandfather. They clearly don't look like my dad at all, but they also don't resemble my husband much either. My son looks like my soon-to-be ex, and he's the only child that you can visibly tell is his kid. although my 14 female daughter has his nose and jaw shape. 2. I was definitely enraged the day everything went down, but my dad talked me off the murder ledge and reminded me that I needed to think of my baby and my other kids before I do something that would remove both of their parents from their lives. That is what spared them. I still live in a rage fog for the next few days, which is what led to the revenge party. I only regret not telling my brothers privately that my egg donor had been cheating. 3. I honestly don't know all the reasons my 38 female sister is on my egg donor's side. She doesn't get along with me or my sisters and hasn't since high school. I'm not that worried about her. 4. My twin brothers are upset that I sprung the news publicly. That is what my dad has gotten out of them. They are also in therapy and my dad has told me to just give them time. He thinks it's just them killing the messenger. I did not tell them the possibility that my ex was their dad, but they can do the math and figured out that they're the same age as my son and he's younger than the length of the affair. My dad sat them down and explained his reasoning for the DNA test was to prove cheating and not because he was going to abandon them. He is their dad regardless of whose sperm fertilized the egg. 5. I didn't believe that my egg donor and soon-to-be ex waited until he was 18 to have sex, but at this point I'm letting my dad fight that fight and letting him do what he needs to do when dealing with her and their divorce. 6. Have contingency plans ready to enact in the event that they decide to move in together. But my lawyer doesn't believe my ex is stupid enough to do that with the divorce proceedings turning ugly. 7. I forgot to add this in earlier. My husband is 4 months younger than me. My birthday is in December and his is in April. He'll be 40 soon. We're in the same graduating class all through school from kindergarten through to high school. He's not a full year younger than me as others have speculated. I'm focused on my pregnancy, my kids and moving on. I may provide an update after divorces are finalized, but thanks to everyone for the support and advice. Thanks for letting this hormonal, sad, ragey, bitter woman vent and get this off her chest. Now, we're going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? How do you think that you'd be able to deal with that? It sounds absolute crazy situation. I hope that they do get it resolved somehow. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and we'll move on to another story. And our next story comes from Am I the Arsehole subreddit from Limpa Kniza, maybe? Titled Am I the Arsehole for making my wife think our son was missing. My wife has a horrible habit that I discovered 2 months ago. We were ordering lunch on the Subway app and I told her to pick the location that has a drive-thru. That way we don't have to go inside and take the baby out of the car just to clip him back in a few minutes later. She told me it's not a big deal to leave the baby in the car to run in and pick it up really fast. I had no idea she ever did this. I told her I was not comfortable with her leaving him in the car alone, even for a minute, and she told me she'd been doing it since he was born and it's always been fine. She told me she does it to pick up food, run into the post office or pharmacy, etc. I was floored. We don't live in a horrible area, but it's also not super safe either. I told her to not ever do this again. She told me she never stopped to think about the potential dangers and that she would stop doing it. Well, yesterday, as I was driving home from my brother's house, I spotted her car at the gas station near our place. It was parked in a spot up front and not a pump, so I figured she'd stopped in to grab some snacks, which we like to do. I decided to stop and go in and say hi and get some food, and I pulled in and parked next to her. However, when I got there, I was furious to find our son in his car seat. The car wasn't even locked. I don't know what came over me, but in that moment, I decided to take my son and put him into my car. He's got a car seat in there too. I then drove to the other side of the gas station parking lot and waited for my wife to come out. It took 6 minutes for her to appear. When she saw that he was gone, she looked stunned for a second and then started to frantically look around and cry. I didn't let it go on long. After this, I saw her pull out a phone, presumably to call 911. And that's when I pulled my car around to her. I parked, got out and walked around to my son's door, opened it to show him to her. She looked extremely relieved, but that quickly turned to anger, with her asking me why I took him and did that to her. I told her she needed to learn her lesson, and she promised to stop leaving him in the car, and that she was extremely irresponsible. It was so easy for me to pull up and take him. No one else at the gas station even noticed, so if he really was taken there would have been no one to help, and it would have been 100% her fault. She proceeded to call me cruel and psychotic and tried taking our son out of my car into hers. I said no and that I would be driving him home, and I left. She came home not much later but ignored me the rest of the day. She acknowledged me today that she wanted an apology, and I said absolutely not, and she's the one who should be saying sorry. She's been guilt tripping me the rest of the day, saying no mother should experience the fear I put her through. Did I go too far? Am I the arsehole? And we do have like a little update on this one as well. But we're going to start off with Anik here, who says, normally I'm fully against game playing, but this is your child's life. I support your actions. Your wife is being hugely neglectful, not to mention it'll be warm soon, and left in a hot car even for a few minutes can be deadly. Not the arsehole, and I wouldn't let her take him anywhere until she apologizes. OP says, I guess I should clarify the car was running with the air on. I forgot to add that detail and was restricted by the character limit, but the car was on. It's a push to start car with sensor for the key fob, so it'll stay running as long as you're close enough to the vehicle. I didn't see the keys in the car, so she took them inside with her, but didn't lock it. Owly Fox says, honestly not the arsehole in my views. She leaves your son unattended in an unlocked car. Not only can he get kidnapped, but 5 minutes during a hot summer day can be enough for a heat stroke, or someone stealing the car not realizing a kid is on board, or a million other risks or dangers. You asked her not to do it again. She agreed and still did it again. I wouldn't leave my kid with her to run an errand again. Sniffin says, a very light everyone sucks here. Yes, it was an arsehole move, but that's a lesson she needs to learn. No young child or infant should be left in the car alone for many reasons. Who knows what could happen if someone stole the car or decided to take the baby? Honestly, don't let your wife have him in the car when it's just him and her if she's going to risk his life. What if she locks the keys inside during an extremely hot or cold day? 10 minutes could mean death by the time she comes back to the car and calls the police or gets someone nearby to help. Strong Magambo says, everyone sucks here. I think there are some circumstances where it's reasonable to leave a kid in a locked car for a few minutes. Get him petrol, for instance. The kid is only going to stay in the car while I'm pumping, and then it's the work of 1 minute to pay, while the car is visible the whole time. I'm not about to spend 5 minutes getting the kid in and out and turn a 1 minute event into a 6 minute event. You blanketly refuse to accept the above scenario is unreasonable. You aren't an arsehole for demonstrating her shitty vigilance though. Your wife lying to you and not locking the car. Why wouldn't you lock the car is very bad. And one more from You're Smarter Than I Look, who says, look, OP, let's be honest about the reality of the situation. Your wife has knowingly and intentionally left your infant alone in a vehicle multiple times. At least once, that vehicle was unlocked. I'm honestly shocked no one has called the cops for child endangerment yet, but eventually someone probably will. When that happens, CPS will probably get involved. You have now documented on the internet that you knew that this was happening. If CPS finds out that you knew and continued letting your wife leave the baby alone in the car, you will both lose custody of that baby. Not the arsehole for scaring her. That was an appropriate and infant-safe way to demonstrate the potential consequences of your wife's actions to her in a hopefully meaningful way. But you will be the arsehole if you continue to let this happen. If your wife's attitude about the safety of your child doesn't improve, it doesn't really seem like your wife can be trusted to transport the baby right now. It might be time to involve some professional help for her if you want to keep your family intact, or it might be time to document what she's doing. Take your child and leave her if you're done with risking it. And now we're going to move on to that little update to see what happened there. Update on the situation. I sat my wife down this morning and did apologize for the way I went about things, but I said I was not sorry for caring about our son's safety, and in the moment felt like she needed a huge wake-up call. She apologized for lying and continuing to do this unsafe practice. I asked her why she seems so casual about what she's doing. Most parents I know, myself included, are on the paranoid side when it comes to their kids, and she has been doing this for so long without seeing an issue. I asked if she thinks she's dealing with some kind of postpartum mental health issue, as I don't consider this normal. She broke down crying, saying she doesn't know what's wrong with her. She has agreed to seek counselling until there is a major change and improvement. I'll be running all the errands with my son, or we'll be doing them together. But I told her I cannot trust her anymore to take him places by herself. And whatever is going on in their lives, I do wish them the best, and I do hope wife does seek some help. With that little edit there, it certainly felt like to me that she is calling out for that help, so I do hope that they seek it together and she does get what she needs. But what do you guys make of this situation? Maybe you have a different take on the matter. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, a huge thank you for spending your time with me today, getting involved in the stories. Your love, support, and time means the absolute world to me. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows. Okay, I know that today